is likely to expose the station to liability for statements made on the air.
Better days are coming. 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 Better days are coming.
I don't want to hear that same song again. If I hear the same song, I might go insane. Because it's a small the same thing I'm hearing. That now it have a better day coming. But anyhow that I look around, I see the whole world heading for destruction. People committing crimes and for their escape. Say they're doing all that for the children's sake.
Better days are coming. Better days are coming.
Children, stop your crying.
Better days are coming. Better days are coming. Better days are coming. Better days are coming.
Bus workers on strike, all workers don't cool. So your children can't get bus to go to school. The electric people cannot agree.
You can't convince me talking negative about my party. Cause I'm damn strong. We're damn strong. Go away with your trickery, your money and your bribery. Cause I'm damn strong. We're damn strong. Ungratefulness is worse than witchcraft. Come election day and see who get the last laugh. When the party's stalwart, show you the real palm from we have.
Good morning, everyone. This is The Movement on Win FM. This morning we are into edition number 8. Of course, that means that we started sometime in June or May perhaps, and we are now counting down to an election date of August 5th. On this program, The Movement, the whole idea is to allow the candidates of the People's Action Movement to share their policies, their vision, their plans, their programs for the next government, the next season. So we now know that there's a date for election, and this morning we have a group of 3 candidates. We're expecting a 4th one later on. And you know the drift. They would share all of the information that they're trying to win hearts and minds and souls on that crucial day on August 5th. And so I want to say welcome this morning to the candidate for constituency number 1, Mrs. Shani Gray Brooks. I want to greet Kervin Milobox Swimmen, the constituency representative for number 3. And of course, I want to say a special welcome to the incumbent, the holder of the candidate, the constituency number 2, John L. Powell, and say welcome to all 3 of you this morning.
Thank you for having us here.
Thank you, Laverne. It's a pleasure to be here as usual with you.
Morning to everybody, Laverne. Good to be back here in the movement. Just want to say you're doing a fantastic job, so it's a pleasure to be here. Hello to everybody who's joining in, whether over the radio or on the via the internet. I was just thinking I'm the youngest here, but I'm actually the most senior.
Mm-hmm. And that is why I'm going to kick off with you. And just to let our usual listeners know and our usual viewers know that we're going to do a split edition this morning, meaning that for the first hour, we have this team. Of course, we're expecting the candidate for number 3, Chesley Hamilton. 8 rather, sorry, to join shortly. And, well, it's well and good I'm not a thing, so they can't clip this and make it go viral. I'm not in the mix. And then in the second hour, we would have the political leader, and he would be joined by the candidate for constituency number 7, 6, and 4. So you have something to look forward to today from the entire team of the People's Action Movement. So it's going to be rapid fire this morning because clearly we only have an hour. So I want to start with the incumbent holder. You know, Short once said, uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. So, John, everybody's coming after you. Now, it seems to me that the overarching theme for this election is keeping the promise. You've been clearly articulating that you've had mere months when you should have had 5 years. And so what are some of the unfulfilled promises that you still have to keep to the people of constituency number 2 and generally to St. Kitts and Nevis?
Well, it's a matter of finishing up some unfinished business and being able to start new things. Unfinished business like the family park at New Road, a project that I have been able to do all the work for and get started. That's currently under construction, and I will be there as a representative to see it through. Work has already started at the Irish Town Primary School, for example. I will see that through as a representative after the next election. The futsal facility at Chadwell and Pine Gardens, something that I started, have gotten support from FIFA, which is the international body, and I will see that through after being re-elected. And just in general, real representation, things that need to get started, which were frustrated in my first year and a half, is really the redevelopment of Bastille. I'm happy I'm here with Shani and Milo, because notice I'm not limiting it to the redevelopment of Central Bastille, but Bastille, and that includes addressing the abandoned lots, the derelict buildings, which are not just an issue in Central Bastille, but also in my 2 neighboring constituencies of 1 and 3, and utilizing, well, first of all, these things are health hazards, they are security hazards, and they just look bad. And so by attacking these, we're going to utilize, and we can do this through the Bastille Development Corporation, and utilizing local labor, utilizing persons from in the communities to come and clean these areas. Where you have to take down an old building, take it down. And then through a legal process, which I've already done all the research on, we will acquire where necessary. If there are outstanding funds, those funds will go into in escrow, into a fund for example, if the property is subject to some family matters, and the funds will be there for that family whenever they get that business sorted out. And we will redevelop these spots into residential areas, into commercial areas for people to have shops and different businesses. And so through that program, you clean the area, you provide employment, because it's going to take more than 5 years to do all of this. You're providing housing opportunities in areas where you're told there's no land. Well, we're recreating land, redeveloping land, and you're creating opportunities for commercial and entrepreneurship opportunities, i.e. Employment. Things like the providing further employment opportunities through our $100 million Dream Fund, where dreams are going to be made realities. And all that is, we put $100 million into a fund, which makes funding available through grant funding and loan funding to young entrepreneurs, small businesses, entertainers, farmers. And it's not just about giving away money. We're going to provide that technical and training support for these persons to ensure that the businesses, they have the skill sets to ensure that these businesses are sustainable and that they last the test of time, and they don't last, 6 months later, you hear the business is closed. So technical things, providing assistance in management experience, how to do your books, a little bookkeeping, providing support in terms of business plans, If you want to market the business, whether it be through flyers, through websites, Facebook pages, whatever, this is the kind of technical experience we want to provide to ensure sustainability. We in the People's Action Movement don't believe in the handouts, we believe in hand-ups. And while minimum wage is admirable and it does serve a purpose, we are not just looking to offer persons minimum wage. We want to offer you long-term opportunities to keep rising.
Right. Fantastic. I think you've left people on the edge of their seats with some of those plans. It's just left for them to, I guess, vote in the right direction. Now, turning now to the lone female candidate who, by all accounts, is now the star of the show. I think that people are warming up to the fact that Shani is delivering. She's making her strong intentions of getting that number one seat. And the last time you were here, Shani, there was a lot of passion with which you spoke regarding the elderly. I've since then heard somebody, well, one of your competitors, espousing the exact things, almost in the exact words. And I've also seen a video with a lady who I'm assuming, a senior citizen who I'm assuming is also from your constituency. And thereafter, I realized that some of the very ideas that she shared have been incorporated into a plan to really pay more attention to our elderly. How much of your influence was behind all of that?
Now, Laverne, as you would have indicated, I did in fact mention some plans for the elderly and my passion for seeing the elderly live the rest of their lives in dignity. Now, somehow, things that I say in different forums, they're repeated by my opponents. And maybe it is that I inspire them. And if that is the case, I have no difficulty because my aim is to inspire. The elderly, they are at the core of my heart. I really want to see better. One of the things that I would like to see, just pedaling back from what Jonelle would have indicated in terms of the abandoned lot, there are so many abandoned properties in East Bastille. I'm quite certain the government can acquire one of these abandoned lots for the benefit of the elderly citizens. And so I would really like to see a senior citizen daycare facility in East Bastille where they can spend time with persons of their age group, enjoy fun activities, see a different scenery outside of their home, and be pampered. And their children can be at peace. They can go to work knowing that their loved ones are cared for. I also would like to see more meals being provided for our elderly citizens. During my house-to-house campaign, I recognize that there are so many elderly persons living alone, and not just living alone. They can't afford even the very basic when it comes to meals or even running water. And some of them have health issues, and they don't get the necessary care. And I think there must be a program put in place whereby a number of caregivers can go around throughout the communities, and it should not just be limited to East Bastille, because we want our entire senior citizens, all our senior citizens in the country, to be looked after. And so we could create a database whereby we could get their information, even some of their health records, so that when people go out, they at least are assured that they have 2 meals per day at least, and their regular checkups, whether it is they have diabetes, hypertension, they can get the necessary medication. Oftentimes, our senior citizens stay at home and die of a broken heart because there is no one to care for them. And I want to see better for our senior citizens. I understand that some of them are more agile than others. And I would have seen the Facebook Live with one of my constituents, that is Mrs. Irish, and she's very passionate as well. I would have spoken to Miss Irish during my host-to-host campaign, and I recognize that she is one who can do for herself. She also indicates to me that there's a set number of persons that she calls every day just to see that they are alive. We need to be more compassionate and considerate to our elderly. And I think with that program in place, they would be better cared for, and they can live their last days in happiness and more of a pleasant environment. And some of them, even their housing facilities are not adequate, if I would use that word. I think we also need to look at that, because it is not that government would be able to provide everything, but if we could provide some resources just to make sure that the roof that is over a senior citizen's head is one that is adequate, one that does not let them get wet from rain, one where they will not fall in a hole in the floor, because again, they have contributed to society, they have contributed meaningfully, and they have raised sons and daughters who are here today. And why not pay homage to the persons who have raised them? And so I really have that at heart. The campaigning has been going very well, Laverne. As I go around, I hear the issues and concerns from the constituents, and it gives me motivation, it gives me hope, and it helps me to put a number of things in place so that whatever I decide to implement as the next parliamentary representative of East Bastia is not just what Shani wants. It is something that includes the entire constituency. I would not be deterred by anything that the naysayers would say. I would not be intimidated by any scare tactics. I mean, I've been victim to my posters being pulled down. Just this morning, I got a picture where my campaign car, all 4 tires were punctured, and my face was spray painted so that people can't see who Natasha Gray Brooks is. But if they can't see it on the car, they would hear me, they would feel me, and they would see the work that I am doing. And God's willing, on the 6th of August, I will be the next parliamentary representative, because I know my people and I will continue to work hard for them.
Nice.
Thank you. It's quite a pity that had to happen. And maybe just quickly, I'm going to allow, because you ended on that note, and for me, because it could be so troubling. I just want to go around the table very quickly before I come to you, Milo. For each of you to perhaps just speak to your supporters and speak to the electorate in general about the need to abstain from those kinds of behaviors. So maybe let me just start with John, and we'll come this way. Just a couple of sentences.
Absolutely. I have done it before, and I continue to appeal not just to supporters of the People's Action Movement, but to all of us as right-minded, right-thinking citizens to be mature during this election period. Whether it is this painting war between orange and red, it needs to stop. We're defacing public property. When it is pulling down of strips and billboards and posters, vandalizing. Let us be mature during this period. Let us speak to the people. Let us start the issues. Let us show that we really are the best of the best. And that is what the People's Action Movement is doing. We don't need to get tied up into all of that. We know that our plans, our presence speaks for itself, and that is what makes us stand out. That is what makes the People's Action Movement the best option for the people of this country.
Fabulous. Milo?
Yeah, what I have said to my people, it goes further than just do not tear down anybody's stuff. Because what I've also told my people is that when we are putting up our strip, at least leave one lamppost out, so we're going to allow the others to put up theirs. Because, I mean, like we said, those things don't vote, but it's just for the optical thing that we do them. And another thing is that when they are tearing down our stuff, they do not tear down our ideas, they do not tear down our plans, they do not tear down our commitment of offering the people of St. Kitts and Nevis the best of governance that they can get. So, I will say to people, of the other constituencies that, hey, waste your time, waste your energy if you want to pull down our billboard, but what we have in our heart for what we want to do for our constituents, that is something you cannot take away from us.
Perfect. Perfectly said. And Natasha, since you were the victim.
I too would share my sentiments. On the night when the first incident took place, I called out to my team. I made sure I told them, let's not react. We will just continue to push our messages, continue to campaign, continue to work hard, because you win elections on the ground, not by tearing down people's posters or replacing one poster by the next. In addition to that, the defacing of public property, it is a turn off, a big turn off for voters. And whether they support PAM, Labour, or PLP, people do not like it. There might be a minority of persons who want to continue in this type of activity, but it discourages the majority. And it makes our country look tasteless. It doesn't speak well for our country. And so I ask all citizens, whether you support PAM, Labour, or PLP, or no party at all, let us not condone this type of behavior. It should be denounced because it doesn't speak well, and it sends a bad message, a very, very bad message.
Thank you. So we'll give that a couple minutes to soak in, a couple seconds even. Now we'll take a break now, and then when we come back, we'll hear from candidate Milo, the representative of PAM in constituency number 3. We'll be right back. This is The Movement on Win FM.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participant or caller and do not reflect the views of WinFM 98.9. WinFM reserves the right to disconnect any caller who infringes the law or offends the right of any person. The station will also refuse to take any call from any person who, in WinFM's considered opinion, is likely to expose the station to liability for statements made on the air.
Talking negative about my party, but I'm damn strong. We're damn strong. Go away with your trickery, your money and your bribery, cause I'm damn strong. We're damn strong. Ungratefulness is worse than witchcraft. Come election day and see who get the last laugh. When the party's stalwart, show you the real palm from we have.
Good morning again, and welcome back to The Movement. This is a 2-hour show that is hosted by the People's Action Movement, that is sponsored by the People's Action Movement, and hosted by me. My name is Laverne Keynes. We have been doing this for the last 2 months now. Today is actually our 8th edition. And this morning we have 3 candidates from the People's Action Movement to speak to you and to share with you some of their plans and programs to convince your hearts and minds and souls to capture your vote on August 5th, the date that has now been set, that has finally been set for general elections in St. Kitts and Nevis. I want to turn now to the third candidate, Milo, and just share for me maybe 2-3 maximum hot button issues in your constituency.
Well, good morning again to everybody. And both of my colleagues had superbly articulated our position as it comes to abandoned building and getting them all fixed up so that people can have a place to live. One of the things in my constituency that is of interest to my constituents is assistance in terms of they have businesses and whatever, and they want to get a little hands up, not hands out. They want to get a little hands up to help them grow their business, because as you know, during the pandemic, some persons were forced to start small businesses, and they were asking how can us, the next government of the People's Action Movement and the Concerned Citizens Movement, how can we assist them? And we have this Dream Fund, which is meant to do just that, meant to help young entrepreneurs, help them to get a good fresh start in some of the businesses that they want to get into, and also to enhance the businesses that they are already into. So that is what we want to do for our constituents. And as you see, it's no mistake that the 3 of us are here. right? Because that's how you start counting, right? 1, 2, 3, right? So it's no mistake that the three of us are here, and like John had said earlier.
So we're counting in Milo on.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But we're starting from number one, eh?
And that's why I'm in the middle here, because I want to be well sandwiched by my good colleagues, right? And they're gonna help me and get me across the line. But like I said, that's what we are here to do. The People Action Movement, and along with the Concerned Citizen Movement, we realize that our people, they really, really want help. They don't really want to be given any handout and them kind of thing. And the people, they really, really want to contribute to the development of this country. And they really want to do that by being given the opportunity to do that. So that is how part of what we plan to do to help people to enhance their lives.
Okay. On a couple of occasions when the political leader, appeared on the show, he spoke about the dire unemployment amongst our young people. And I am now hearing of a program called Jobs Now. How would that program benefit the young people in your constituency? I'm going to start with the fair lady.
Well, that will definitely benefit a number of young persons. Doing my house to house, there are so many people that have completed high school, CFBC, and they have been out of work for 1-2 years. And they have a number of ideas, they have a number of qualifications, and with this program in place, they will definitely be assured of some form of employment, having completed their education. It can be very disheartening to the young people that they have, these 10, 12 subjects, O-levels, A-levels, and nothing is happening for them. We oftentimes say that the youth are our future, but so we must give them that opportunity. We must give them that lifeline to be able to start their career, to be able to start a particular field that they want to enhance a talent or a skill in, because we have to ensure that we set a foundation for them. And with that foundation, being able to access the Job Now program, they would be able to at least make a determination where they want to see their life go. Whether they want to continue on that particular area, or they want to advance, or if they just want to take another road. But at least they know that they have been given that opportunity. They can now put something on their CV. Oftentimes you see an application for a job and it's asking for all these requirements, accomplishments, experiences. But then when you come out of high school and college, you don't have any experience, but you have the qualification, and with training and some opportunity to have experience, I think this will set the tone for them.
Milo?
Well, I like to echo what Shani said, and also to agree with her. We have a lot of our people in our constituencies, all three of us, and they've been on all these work programs, the PEP, the peace program, and they're not comfortable. As people will make fun of them and say that, or people will say, well, they ain't working and they're getting money or whatever. These persons are not comfortable. They want to get off of that and get meaningful employment where they can generate their own fund and even help somebody by giving them a job. But one of the problems that I've come to realize is that with this program, it seems as if though they just want to keep the young guys, them especially, on this program to keep them down, to be able to control them. Because what I gather from some of them, that even when they go, right, and make application to get the funding to develop themselves, the funding is denied. And one of the things where the funding, they said the thing that one of the reasons the funding is denied is because they are on the program. Yeah. So I think that our idea of the job creation, it will go a long way in asking people to come off of this dependency and really be in a position to create and make their own dollar.
John L., how say you?
The Jobs Now program is really focused on addressing unemployment and underemployment. And the foundation for this will be the creation of an environment for investment, whether it be local or foreign investment. And we will see that through infrastructural developments here, whether it is the boardwalk that is envisioned for the Irish Town Bay Road, whether it is in the plan to build 1,000 new houses for persons across this constituency. Sitting in cabinet for a year and a half, I saw so many opportunities for really successful potential investments from both locals and foreigners. It could hotels and energy companies and this and that were frustrated for lack of vision, or in some instances lack of personal benefit to certain people. But under a government of the People's Actual Movement and the Concerned Citizens Movement, you will see more development, more economic development, thereby creating these job opportunities for hundreds, if not thousands, of persons across this country. And again, as Milo is saying, we're not just talking about we can put you on this step, we can put you on the piece to make minimum wage. We are talking about real job opportunities, which come with training opportunities. So at some point in time, you're not working for somebody. You have the skill sets, you have the experience to go and work for yourself thereafter. Just recently, I met with some persons who are interested in getting into the marijuana industry here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And the first thing they said to me is, look, we're going to need to start off with 125 people, but not just growers. We need plumbers because we're going to be doing, we need builders to build the shade tent and maintain the shade tents because they grow indoors. We need plumbers because we utilize irrigation and hydroponics. We need electricians and electrical engineers because the lighting has to be special to mimic the lighting of the sun. And they went on to tell me about all these different skill sets, and that's one business. So imagine when you have hotels coming in, when you have medical facilities coming in, when you have energy, IT, all these different things coming on stream in a new economic boom here in St. Kitts and Nevis. The sky is going to be the limit for the young people of this country.
Yes.
There's one thing that I want to add, if I may, too, because I am aware that people who work as contract workers and even people who are part of these programs, they really can't attract loans because the banks would tell them your job is not permanent.
Or even higher purchase.
Exactly. So it stagnates how far they can get in their own personal growth and development.
That's the difference between the hands out and the hands out.
And things like, for example, Social Security.
I was just about to say that.
Yes.
What happens?
When they're
What happens
62?
when you're sick? What happens when you
Absolutely.
reach the retirement
We
age?
really need to
What
rethink this
benefit
thing.
is there for you? Shani's talking about making life more comfortable for our elderly, but you're looking at almost a generation of persons there now that would have had no social safety net put in place for them.
Absolutely.
When you think about things like benefits, it might be health care, it might be maternity leave. These are not things that are envisioned in these what should really be short-term work
Absolutely.
programs. And so the People's Action Movement and CCM are not looking at no short-term solutions. Yeah, those fill a gap, but we are more concerned about the long-term solutions. So let's use these short-term solutions to equip our people, empower our young people with the skill sets needed to take advantage of the long-term opportunities.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that addition. There's been a conversation that I was made aware of about economic, the fact that the government, I don't know if it is true, but I want you to allay fears if in fact it is so, and if your party is planning to change that position, that students who are now attending the University of the West Indies are not paid the government is not paying economic costs any longer. You have been the most recent Minister of Education. Is this something you can share on?
Well, at some point in time over the course of the last year, a decision had been taken within the establishment or HR department in government to stop paying economic costs for students in certain disciplines. I think law, medicine, and one or two others. That decision was based on the fact that it was not felt that these were priority areas for the government anymore. This decision had not been brought to cabinet, and so it has been an outstanding matter. But I can safely say here today that the Government of the People's Action Movement and the Concerned Citizens Movement will continue to pay economic costs for all students of St. Kitts and Nevis who attend the University of West Indies, regardless of what discipline or faculty they are in or pursuing. We will continue to do that. Why are we trying to limit the education and the expansion of our young people's minds? We are going to support them and ensure that they're well equipped so that when they come back home to the bigger, better, more prosperous St. Kitts and Nevis, they are not they're not coming back home with university degrees to go on step as some people want to put them. We are going to give them the opportunities, like a Natasha Shani Greb Brooks, to go and start her own law firm, to go and start their own medical clinic, to go and start their own consultancy business, to go and become middle and senior managers within the private sector.
Thank you. So that is the assurance that John L. is giving today. So you all hold him to it. Make a note and hold him to it. Come August 6th.
We all about keeping the promise.
There you go. I was looking for the opportunity for you to insert that.
Yes.
And seeing that I would be down on Church Street with my good friend John L. and
Not
my
4th Street, Church.
Church Street. I'm quite certain there would be room for many other lawyers here in St. Kitts, and so we need to encourage them.
All right, because you're practicing the close.
Well,
Got
bear,
you.
bear in mind that between Pam and Sissy, and that's 5 lawyers you're going to be taking out of the pool.
So we need to
replace.
replace them.
Okay. And it takes 5 years, 3 years in law school and 2 years in Jamaica.
Yes.
Okay, there you go. I like the sound of that. Now, Shani, I'm going to swing back around to you, because I think one of the things that we discussed when you were last here was the whole diversity of your constituency. There's still a lot of issues, I guess, in Frigate Bay. There are the water issues. There's still the whole issue of the golf course not being fully activated since COVID and after, and not even now. And of course, there are a lot of businesses in the Frigate Bay area that are unique to tourists and tourism development. Do you have any particular plans along those lines, in terms of you being the hopeful constituency representative for number 1, where those things are concerned?
As you would have indicated, the water issue is a serious problem. I never envisaged that we would have been here in 2022. However, we are, but we need to fix it. And so I know there are a number of plans to ensure that we have desalination plants so that the water system could be fixed. It really is disheartening, especially as a business person. And you know that we have a huge Indian community. They operate in the food business, they operate in stores, and even our locals. It can't be comfortable to be out working all day, and then when you reach home, there is no water. And so desalination plants would help to alleviate that problem. We also need to look at building more wells, because we have to admit that the supply and demand is no greater, and we need to put the necessary things in place. And I would agitate for that as the next parliamentary representative. I know that a number of persons in Frigate Bay have also raised the issue of the golf course. It is substandard based on the reports that I have been given. I've never played golf, and so I honestly don't know what is the requisite standard, but I take their word for it. And apart from being able to enjoy a sport that you love, it also affects the tourism product, because if it is we have a golf course that can encourage persons to come to St. Kitts and Nevis to participate in tournaments, it would also do good for the hotels, it would do for the businesses, the restaurants, and we need to ensure that the necessary discussions are had so that people can feel comfortable, they can feel proud of the golf course that we have. Also, it also affects the value of the property. Imagine 10, 15 years ago, you would have bought a a property thinking, wow, I'm right here by this beautiful golf course. And now people are now going to different islands to play the sport of golf because of the state of the golf course. And that depreciates the value of our properties in Frigate Bay. And we need to really look at that and have something done to be able to make our people feel proud of our product, to encourage tourism and to ensure that our economy can thrive, because we always know that we can be number one, but we just have to do the necessary thing and empower people and put our citizens and residents in the best position.
And to add to what Shani is saying with the golf course, we want more young Kittians like Joel McEachran, who got a scholarship to go to university on golf. So it's more than just a rich people game. It's more than just a tourist game. You have a lot of locals who play golf. Adrian Norford, Zeke Percival, these are all persons who have developed livelihoods based on this sport. We really need to see the value of sport tourism.
And some of our elderly persons are not so young. Let me don't say elderly, not so young, enjoy the sport, because Mrs. Brisbane, I spoke to her and she enjoys golf as well. So we really need to ensure that we have that conversation and, have greater cooperation amongst the residents and the relevant stakeholders so that we can do better for our country. Our country deserves better.
Great. Now, if, as I said, your overarching theme is keeping the promise, and so if in fact we are promise keepers, we have to ensure that once we are elected and we have the wherewithal to do all of these things, that clearly they are given significant priority and work would be started where possible. Now, swinging back to Milo. But I don't know if the Fort Thomas, the old Fort Thomas Hotel, touches on Jonel's plan or yours plan.
That's on his side of Wrigley Avenue.
Okay.
Yeah, because Jonel now is now telling me that the school that I attend
is in Central Bass.
Is in his thing.
Which school? Irish Town?
No. The Dr. William School, because of how the boundaries are. But I, as a small boy going to that school, the name, the St. Johnson Village School.
And it was Village School, yeah.
So, I don't know.
Maybe it depends on which side your class was.
Yeah. But I saw a post from you. I follow social media very strongly. I saw a post from you articulating a plan of putting your office, of renovating the Fort Thomas Hotel and putting your office there. Where did that idea come from?
Well, as a small boy growing up in the village, if you know the Fort Thomas Hotel, that was the original, the Holiday Inn, right? And it was a very vibrant hotel. And it was also, as we said, the first place that we kept the music festival. So that area has a lot of significance to us in the village. And to see it there now languishing and nothing happening to it and overgrown and stuff, it is an eyesore. And so I look around and I say, but government rents, from all over the place, all kind of people, and have offices all over the place. And we have a government property that is there. Nothing is being done with it. And make it worse, it is in my village. And, as my colleagues and I have spoken about earlier, about abandoned things inside our constituencies. And I say, well, that area is big enough, plus you have proper parking. Right? So it can be well utilized as the space for not on the 6th, because I don't think I'll go there right now, but I'll become the representative on the 6th. So I'll give myself a little time, and then we start some work on that here sometime. I hope to start some work on that as early as sometime next year, because we're going to have the designers and, the persons them doing all the work that needs to be done before we fix that. And I will want all ministries that I'm responsible for to be located there, right? And people visiting there to carry out any sort of business there. Like I said, going into the city, going into town, going into Jonel's area, it is a headache because Jonel ain't got no parking space in his area. So I will welcome them to the Republic of the Village and West Bastille, where they can have parking space while they conduct their business.
We will build parking space.
So That is part of it. I think that here is a good piece of real estate that is just being language in there, going to waste. And I see that there's also giving me an opportunity to be right in the heart of my constituency, and it will be easier for me to see a lot of my constituents because of the close proximity in where they are living and where my office is situated. So that for me is one of the major things and the most significant thing that I will do, because like I say, just being there languishing, right? And like I said, that will happen after we would have taken government on the 6th. And let me just say something. The month of August was significant for me before, because it was in the month of August, the 18th of August, when my daughter was born and I became a daddy. And now this month of August, now the 6th is going to be significant to me again, because that's when I'm going to become a minister in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. So I can say thanks to August. I born in April, but I would like to say thanks to August, because August has been good to me.
So you think the results coming in on the 6th, you don't believe they're coming before 11:59 on the 5th?
Well, I mean, I have no problem waiting. We've been waiting for a while now to really get rid of this illegal, I don't know what to say if it's government, but this illegal set of persons who are masquerading as a government. And I think waiting to a minute past 12 won't do us anything, because, I mean, we are not Cinderellas. We don't have to do anything before 12. So we'll be okay.
Thank you for that little bit of levity, Milo. But there are a lot of other serious matters that have been left undone. And perhaps some people have been disappointed that nothing was done with issues like electoral reform and fixing our boundaries and all of that. And I believe that if there's to be a serious commitment from a political party about how those things are going to be prioritized, it would be a boon in your cap, in terms of people wanting to see these things done, because they know the importance of them being done. And so I don't know which of you want to weigh in on these two issues, because clearly we can't go much longer into this century without these things being fixed.
Well, I'll jump in here, Laverne. These issues have been on the PAM agenda dating back to before we joined Team Unity.
Yes.
And Team Unity really came to government on the backs of these issues. I had the pleasure of serving the people for a year and a half in cabinet, where myself along with my colleagues continuously, and I can only speak to the last 2 years because that is when I was there, but where we continuously raise and push these issues to have them frustrated by people like the Prime Minister. And so we give that commitment that not just will we implement these measures of good governance within the first term, but we will start them within the first 100 days, because we take them seriously. There was always some excuse, some delay, some tactic. I now in hindsight understand what was happening. And so we give the commitment to ensure that things like integrity in public life is brought to life, is given the teeth, is enacted. I don't mind going to a commission and telling them how much I owe the bank, because I have nothing to show. I'm not in this for the money. I'm not in this to enrich myself. I'm in this thing to help people. Things like freedom of information, electoral reform. We see the tactics that are being employed till today, where you have persons being transferred in mass from one constituency to another constituency where they don't live in order to vote. We're seeing for the month of May nearly 1,000 people being registered in a single month. I don't think we've had that in a single year before in the history of this country. We're seeing, for example, the May month, the revised list for the month of May being published while there's still outstanding objection hearings to be held in respect of persons who registered to vote in May. And so there is a serious need for electoral reform, and we will start that process immediately, whether that includes working on the voters list, boundaries, making our electoral system and office more independent, looking at review of the constituency boundaries and the number of constituencies, identification of voters, even the way in which we tally our votes. We should not be waiting for hours and hours until the next day and maybe the night of the next day to get results. Constitutional reform. These are all things, term limits for the office of the Prime Minister, fixate elections. Never again will one man be able to hold the election date in his back pocket and hold an entire country hostage based on his whims and fancies. And these are things that we commit to doing, not just in the first term, but prioritizing for the first 100 days to start those processes and see how much we can actually do, because we can actually get some done within that period.
You know what is interesting, though, Lavan, is that as Janelle was speaking, something came to me that the real issues that affect our federation, which is health and something like constitutional reform, if you look at what is left of the illegal persons at Church Street, you will realize that who is left are the persons who were really responsible for those two things. Because you have the Attorney General, who is still there with the Prime Minister, and you have the 3 ministers of health that we have had since Team Uni came to power. So it's like you can really see who were doing something. Those who were really doing something based on what they promised. I mean, it was a collective promise because it was the promise of team unity. But the individualism that was assigned to those ministries, you can see that lack of performance. Because our health system is in disarray. And as Jonel was saying, in terms of the constitutional reform and how, it is in disarray, but those are the persons who are still there today, which means that those who were said to be not doing their job, they did most of what they were doing. Jonel was doing a great job with what he was doing, as all the other ministers who were, but Jonel like use this word to you because you say it never happened to you, who was fired, right? So
I was fired right here in this room, live.
Yes, I think he was fired live, right? So, when I look around, I say, you could see who were really the problem, who was holding back this sort of progress in our country in terms of electoral reform and our healthcare system and even our health insurance system, because those are the ones who are still there.
I hear you. We're looking forward now because we can't look backward anymore. So an election is 17 days away. 17 days away. I mean, that's 2 weeks and 3 days. Jonel just kind of, hinted about the process and some of the things that were questioned in terms of electoral lists and all of that. How satisfied are you going through the list that you have a list that is clean, you have a list that is void of objections, and that is a clean slate that would give everybody a fair chance of becoming a minister of government post August 5th?
Well, like Janelle said, we just got the revised list for May and the list for June. So our people are still looking through it. We had a discussion amongst ourselves yesterday about, what was transpiring on that list and what measures we are going to put in place, implement to deal with that. So we are still looking at it right now. And my team, along with Jonel's team and I'm sure Natasha's team, is really looking into it. So probably sometime in the week we will have a more better position to say where we are and what we think about what's happening. But we can see that there is some attempt to do something with the list to make it favorable for the other side. Right? But we are not going to sit down. We are not going to just lie down, play possum, and while they and let them run wild with it. So we definitely are going to be perusing the list there, looking at what they're doing, the transferring, like Jonel is saying, and all of that there. We are seeing it. We are seeing in areas where you wonder how a house could hold so much persons, or them kind of things. So we are looking at that there.
Okay. Lava and my team as well, we are going through the list with a fine-tooth comb, because we would not sit by and allow anybody to do anything that is untoward as it relates to our elections. We have heard of the numerous flights that are coming in. We are carrying out our own investigations, and I'm quite certain other parties are carrying out their investigations too. And so, come election day or a few days before, whenever the list is published, we are going to put ourselves in a position to make sure that what needs to be objected to or challenged is done, and the training of our agents is being done extensively, because they must know when is the opportune time to be able to stand up and make sure that no one tries to steal this election from us. And I am going to work right down until the last vote goes into that box, because we must let our people know that whatever elections takes place in this federation must be free and fair, and free from fear. And free from fear. So all those who are listening, listen well. The People's Action Movement is not going to sit idly by and allow anyone to try and mess with the electoral process.
Well, we know what the electoral list should be for the election day. We don't have to wait for them. We know what it should be. It is the last annual list, which is January 2022, and the last published revised list, which is that of April, which was published in June. Anything outside of that ought not be a part of the list on election day. We are seeing the shenanigans, we are seeing the desperate measures by a desperate regime, and I am not going to be politically correct like my colleagues. Anybody who's not supposed to vote in Central Bastille will not be allowed to vote in Central Bastille. Nobody's going to steal this election from the people of this country. We saw the shenanigans start under old Labour. We've seen them escalate under new Labour. Well, Pam is going to put an end to this once and for all. If you're not supposed to vote in Central Bastille, do not come down there to try and vote. You will not be allowed.
Well, let me say something in that same vein. We at West Bastille, we are committed to protecting our democracy. And we are also committed to ensuring that the democratic process goes smoothly. And we are saying to persons out there, if someone is asking you to do something wrong or something illegal as voting in a constituency that you're not a resident of, do not do it. Do not do it. We will not stand by and let even, it seems like there is some sort of importation of voters to mess with the will of the people. So I'm saying to anyone, wherever you are from, if you were brought here by a specific party to try to mess with our election, be very, very well aware that we are watching you, we are looking at you, and we will not stand by and let you do anything that will cause the People's Action Movement and the Concerned Citizens Movement to form the next government in St. Kitts and Nevis.
And not only that, to dictate for the people of
Exactly.
St. Kitts and Nevis.
Exactly.
The people must speak, and they will speak loudly on election day.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I seem to have stirred up something in the three of you. But
Oh, yeah, we are the bastards, you know. East, West, Central. We are the bastards,
We
you
from
know.
town. Tell Sean we from town.
Like on that show right here.
Some no sunny points as well.
Oh, that's what I said.
Yeah.
That's what I said, Sean, because he outside and she's inside.
But we are 3 against 1 right now, so she should be trembling.
Listen, around here is one love. One love all the time.
Definitely.
But I want to ask the last question of the three of you. And you could, it's a kind of two-parter, if you will. We have spoken a lot on this program about the diaspora and the value of the diaspora. And how they can contribute, and how this party plans to bring them in terms of opportunities for investment and all of that. Now, two things. One, is the diaspora vote still something that you think should go forward? And two, is this the time now to consider a ministry of the diaspora? I think in Jamaica there's something similar. so that if in fact they can come and vote and contribute to the outcome of a government, and they're saying, well, we're sending remittances, we're paying our taxes, we're contributing to the economy of St. Kitts and Nevis. What is the party's vision in the long run for folks in the diaspora? Johnny, you want to give it a shot?
Yeah.
Well, the People's Action Movement in the past had made its position very clear on this particular issue, in that we believe that persons should be registered or should register to vote in a constituency in which they're resident. And so, in order to register in constituency 1, you must be resident in constituency 1 to vote there. If you want to register in constituency 2, you must be resident there. If you want to maintain your residency there, you must be resident there. And so it is not so much about whether persons in the diaspora can vote on or should vote or not. It is really about residency in the constituency in which you live.
Or you're connected with, in this case.
Right, and so you must satisfy the law in that respect. It's not about identifying a particular demographic. But I think the bigger issue is the importance of the diaspora and our nationals in the diaspora. And I think whether it be a ministry, an office, a department, what have you, we do need to put more emphasis on that. We do need to be able to reach out and know what human resources we have out there. It's not always about financial, but we may have technical expertise in the medical field, in the engineering field, in the technology field out there who can provide whatever resources or connections for us to take advantage of. We have students studying across the globe. We should be able to know and stay in touch, know where they are and stay in touch with them, whether it is for us to provide support for them as students, or even for us to tap into what they're doing out there and see how we can bring and share that knowledge and experience with our persons resident in St. Kitts and Nevis.
You have any opinion on that,
I completely share the sentiments by Janelle. I think we should just continue to embrace our citizens living out there, because they have a lot to contribute. They have been persons who have grown up here, who have family members here, who contribute to the society. And so, as he indicated, it is about putting measures in place whereby we can have that dialogue, we can have that connect, and make sure that we can all benefit as persons who have a great interest in the nation. So once you're qualified to vote on the voters list, you would be entitled to vote, whether you live here in St. Kitts or if you live in Taiwan. Our students, they go away for 2-3 years. Do we say that they can't vote when they are registered? I say it all goes back to qualification and whether or not you're qualified to vote. But a discussion can be had in terms of how best we can make use of our citizens who have decided to migrate for one reason or another, but they still want to be a part of our country. And we love our citizens, we love our residents, and we must find a way for them to contribute to this great nation of ours.
Thank you. Well, guess what? Your time is up. Does it remind you of anybody else?
Milo.
The six.
Time up, Tim.
And the 6.
Your time is up. I understand the other candidates are there waiting. I want to thank you so much. This was one of the liveliest presentations I've had. I think the best is...
Yes.
The Bassett gel well. I want to remind the listeners and the viewers that they're not running away from questions, but because we have to do a split edition. So if you have any questions and you're listening, save them for maybe the next 40 minutes or so, and we would include your calls then. So we are going to welcome the other members who would be the second half. Which team will play better, the first half or the second half?
First half.
So we are the openers. We set the pace.
But thank you so much for coming, guys, and I wish you all the best in your journey towards...
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Vote Jepito.
Yeah.
And vote NSG.
And vote Milo.
The views and opinions expressed in this program are solely those of the participant or caller and do not reflect the views of WinFM 98.9. WinFM reserves the right to disconnect any caller who infringes the law or offends the right of any person. The station will also refuse to take any call from any person who, in WinFM's considered opinion, is likely to expose the station to liability for statements made on the air.
You can convince me talking negative about my party. Cause I'm damn strong. We're damn strong. Go away with your trickery, your money and your bribery. Cause I'm damn strong. We're damn strong. Ungratefulness is worse than witchcraft. Come election day and see who get the last laugh. When the party's stalwart, show you the real palm from we heart. Voting BAM, voting BAM. That's for the country then and now. Voting BAM, voting BAM. No way you can beat us, no how. Voting BAM, voting BAM. Don't care who joining the gang fight.
You guys ready?
Voting BAM, standing on the side of right.
Welcome back. You are listening to The Movement on WinFM. We promised you that we would have a second team in the second hour. And so true to form, we want to welcome the political leader, Sean Richards. There is also Lindsay Grant, the constituency representative for number 4 and the incumbent holder of that constituency, as well as the constituency representative for number 6, Troy Flanders, and the constituency representative for number 7, David Lincoln Pell. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Morning.
Mr. Leader, I want your full attention.
You have it.
So we're here this morning, like we promised you. We're going to do a split edition of this movement this morning. And so we have the 4 candidates, the other 4 candidates, and apologies for Chesley, who did not make it with the first team. And so right off the bat, Mr. Political Leader, people are asking, you're saying that you're keeping the promise. And so people are asking, well, what were some of the unfilled promises that were not kept? Why you're saying keeping the promise now? Does it mean that there were promises that were not kept, that were unfulfilled?
Good morning, Laverne, and good morning to all listeners of WinFM. It is my pleasure to be back here on the movement for yet a next edition. Indeed, the People's Action Movement has been saying to the people of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, keeping the promise. However, let me point out that keeping the promise doesn't just refer to unfulfilled promises from the last 7 years of a team unity administration. Keeping the promise also reflects the fact that the People's Action Movement administration is accustomed, has a record of keeping its promises, of keeping its commitments to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Therefore, before I directly answer the question that you ask, let me say to the listeners that during the period 1980 to 1995, the People's Action Movement government then made a number of promises to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, which were kept. Before the People's Action Movement got into government in 1980, it made a promise to remove personal income tax. That is, if you receive a salary, absolutely no percentage, not a single cent of that salary goes towards personal income tax, unlike some other islands here in the region where you pay 15 and 20 and 25% of your salary in personal income tax. The People's Action Movement also made a promise back then to pay for the former sugar lands. That is a promise that was also kept by PAM. It is because of that gesture why we are landowners here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis today. Why we are able to build houses, why we're able to acquire space for businesses, for farming, etc. We also made a promise then to mend the bad relationship between St. Kitts and Nevis, as Nevis at that particular point in time was asking to secede from St. Kitts. The coalition government between 1980 and 1995 saved that relationship and actually took St. Kitts and Nevis into independence in 1983. We promised prosperity to all of the people. As part of that prosperity, we saw the building of the Southeast Peninsula Road. We saw the building of Port Zante. We saw the introduction of the Citizenship by Investment program. We saw a suite of policies and legislation to improve the social conditions and the economic conditions of persons here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We saw the introduction of the schools meals program. We saw the introduction of the free textbooks for students in our secondary schools. We saw the development of the relationship between St. Kitts and Taiwan, which has led to persons getting scholarships to go to Taiwan, which has led to Taiwan assisting the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis with the building of community centers, sporting facilities, the development of agriculture, the assistance in terms of equipment and training within the healthcare sector, and in so many other different spheres of our development. The government back then also said to the people, we are going to reduce the age that you're able to vote at from 21 to 18 years of age. Persons can now vote at the age of 18 because of the People's Action Movement. There are many more things that I can speak to, policies that I can speak to, enacted by the People's Action Movement back then, that decades after we continue to benefit from. As part of the Team Unity administration between 2015 and 2022, similarly, we made promises to the people. Some we were able to fulfill, the others which are still yet to be fulfilled. We spoke to the alleviation of poverty, and that is why the People's Action Movement ensured that we have the poverty alleviation program. We spoke to the roofing program, and the People's Action Movement ensured that that roofing program came into being. We said that there was too much crime, especially gang violence in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and so that is why we introduced the peace program to bring relief in terms of the crime situation in St. Kitts and Nevis. We said, for example, the old road bay must be renewed, we must get a new road. And indeed, that has been accomplished. And I can speak again to a number of other things. We also spoke of the good governance agenda, and we are not satisfied that in terms of the good governance agenda, that we have accomplished all that we need to. While we have the integrity in public life legislation, we are not satisfied, and Lindsay is here, I am here. We have never ever filed any document with respect to declaring our assets and our liabilities. So while the legislation is there, it is not actually activated. The freedom of information, term limits for the Prime Minister, electoral reform, those are still yet to be implemented. And the government of the People's Action Movement will implement those. We spoke to fair share for all, and certainly fair share for all. It cannot mean that when you get 15 houses from Venezuela, all 15 houses are built in one constituency, number 7, Timothy Harris's constituency. It means that all of the other constituencies did not benefit from those homes. We spoke about making sure that healthcare is prioritized. The New Bastia High School is built. Those are still yet to be done, and those, of course, cannot be given priority over the construction of a prison for some $2.4 billion, in which the friends and family members of Dr. Harris are the ones benefiting from the construction of that $2.4 billion prison.
Thank you. I appreciate I appreciate the historical aspect of this whole promise keeping thing, because I think in essence you have basically said that PAM is a party that when it says it's committed to doing something, it does keep that commitment, and for the electorate that is very important. You can't promise people something and then they build their hopes up and then you dash their hopes after 5 years. But to bring it a little closer to current issues, I want to ask Mr. Grant, being the last minister, the incumbent minister for tourism, how has the COVID-related entry requirements in St. Kitts and Nevis impacted stayovers? And even now, I think it was bad enough before, it seemed to have been getting worse in recent times. Can you speak to that? And at the same time, can you give the electorate a commitment, perhaps both you and the political leader, as to what the plans would be post-election in relation to the COVID-related requirements to enter into St. Kitts?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Let me begin to answer that question by firstly saying to you that you would recognize that when the Team Unity government took the reins of the government in 2015, I, as the Minister of Tourism, set out to achieve certain benchmarks in terms of arrivals by air and by sea into St. Kitts and Nevis. I think we did pretty well, because by the time 2019 came, we had broken the 1 million passenger mark by cruise arrivals back to back in 2018 and 2019. And we were well on our way in 2020 to even surpass our 2019 figure when the dreaded COVID came. When we look at air arrivals, we had broken records there also, because my benchmark was 150,000. We broke that barrier. My next benchmark after 150,000 would have been 175. And I really wanted to get to in the region of 250 over an 8-year period. I must say we were well on our way when COVID came again in 2020. Suffice to say that we have begun again rebuilding the tourism sector. But the tourism sector has been affected by the pandemic in a serious way. And let us begin first of all by the cruise arrivals. We had put in place a significant document for arrivals by cruise, drafted in the main out of the St. Kitts Tourism Authority. I think it was a 90-page document. That document also became like the Bible for some of our friends and neighbors around in the Caribbean. So comprehensive and so good it was. However, I felt that as Minister of Tourism at the time during the pandemic, we could have done a couple of things to alleviate the problems that we were having, because, there were serious closures. Persons were really hurting. The hair braiders, the primate vendors, the retailers, all were hurting. And when we were coming to a portion of time in the pandemic, I was at pains to get the buy-in from certain members of the cabinet to allow ships to come in so that persons could ply their trade. Because at the end of the day, I was saying we have to live with the COVID. It's not going away. We have to live with it, and that is very important. We cannot treat it as if it's such a disease, so to speak, that we lock ourselves in. And even today, people are still reeling from the pandemic. So some haven't worked for 2 years, and it's really, we really have to look at that. And so, for my own part, I think we now need to have an easing of the restrictions that still pertain. I think St. Kitts and Nevis is one of the last islands.
That is the point, exactly. So people have other options.
Exactly. And we saw our numbers dropping off for air arrivals, specifically because of this. Because persons weren't going to go through the hassle, my words, of coming to a country when you have other options, cheaper options. And so it was not inviting. And so we lost a lot of ground there.
And perhaps they're still losing.
Still losing ground. And what we have to do now is we have to now try to rebuild our base that we had. And so it's going to be it's not going to be an easy time from now to rebuild it, because we're seeing it. And the price of the tickets right now is horrific. And so these are things that one will have to work out. But from my part, we have immediately have to really ease these tough restrictions, as I call them. Look, it's so tough sometimes. I have to get somebody to do it. That's how bad it is. I mean, it's frustrating, to get to. And if you're going on a vacation, you don't want to go to those frustrations. So you're going to say, nah, let me go to somewhere an easier place. I mean, there are other countries around us who have it worse than us in terms of the pandemic, but their restrictions are minimal. And so I think I don't want to say it's by design, it appears, but I would leave the public to determine that on their own in terms of what they're seeing now.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Political Leader, how is this whole thing impacting nationals who may want to participate in general elections? Because surely, if there is in fact that diaspora participation, it would benefit perhaps all parties all around, yours included. I happen to be aware of people who have started to travel back, and they're saying that it is absolutely horrendous to even get a response when, even after you would have submitted all of the information that is required. So clearly, it's being felt in some quarters that is a little bit of a stumbling block, because I guess people know people by name and all of that. But it is what it is. But the question is, how are we going to get around it and get past it to fix it?
I will say, Laverne, that perhaps it is deliberate in terms of ensuring that the approval process is slowed down. We do know that persons coming in from overseas to participate in the electoral process will not be beneficial to the party and to
which party?
If you would allow me to finish,
okay.
I'm quite sure that you would know which party I'm referring to. To the party and to the gentleman who is seeing his last days as Prime Minister of this country. He knows, and his party also is fully aware of the fact that he's on his very last days. So he's not going to do anything that he feels that will give an advantage to any of the other political parties.
Okay.
However, we are prepared to agitate politically, legally, and otherwise to ensure that our supporters are able to fully participate in the electoral process. The fact is that at this point in time, the law allows for it, and until the law says otherwise, then citizens who want to exercise their franchise must be able to exercise their franchise. They should not be blocked or frustrated by an individual as that individual attempts to illegitimately hold on to the reins of power in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Thank you. Thank you for that response. I think it is, as a boss of mine used to say, that was pellucidly clear. Now, Mr. Troy, in your constituency number 6, you have fishermen and farmers. I remember hearing you when you were introduced to the public, and you spoke very eloquently about your assistance to them. Now, the bell has rung, and so we know now that there's an election date, and I want to believe that those people in your constituents who are farmers and fishers maybe knocking on your door more frequently now to ask you what it is you plan to do for us to gain our votes. What are you telling them when they ask you this?
Good morning, Ms. Keynes, and good morning to all listening. When you come around my area, fishing, farming, but most of the farmers I speak to, I tell them just what I've been saying all along the campaign trail. We speak about the water situation, and we speak about marketing, and actually my plans for that area is to let Constituency 6 and alongside Constituency 7, those 2 areas could be the breadbasket of this federation. You know, those 2 areas have the most fertile soil. They get the best rainfall. So I think those 2 areas will be good. So most of them, they understand what I'm talking about. So it's not that hard to convince them because they themselves experience what I'm talking about in terms of the problems that they face. You know, like for instance, it stated that the Department of Agriculture, most of them will come to me after me that. Say, Mr. Flanders, man, you can imagine we can't get this, we can't get that. We don't know who to go to up there and the situation. And those are things, simple as it may sound, those are things that throw off produce and everything. Because if you go and plant something and you can't get chemical to flip down the weeds, grass going to take over. You can't get chemical to treat the worms. The worms going to eat down your thing, you know?
So you're saying that the support is not there from agriculture, or is limited?
It is limited, and especially now around this time, it's sad to say.
What do you mean by around this time?
This election time.
Okay.
Was that come to me, people coming to me and tell me that, for instance, some people go up there to buy plastic mulch. They can't get none. They're telling them that they are not selling because they are using the supplies right now as, I don't know, I don't want to say it, but it appears to be that they're trying to give people the supplies to catch a vote. That's how it appears to me right now.
But don't we all pay taxes?
Well, that's the thing, because that's why the farmers complaining. People go there with their money to buy, and they refuse to sell them. And if a farmer go up there with the money, that means he's serious about what he's doing. And by doing that, you're throwing him back. This is July, August is when we prepare land, get ready for the rainy season, right? But when you do that now, you're going to throw him right back. So he got half the planting season. And then that will be a problem now with food. When you come on, you know, if you plant now, by December, you start to see the harvest.
Yeah.
So that will just show you back.
But I hope you're giving them the promise that the new PAM system government would fix that. I mean, August 6th is just days away, 17 days away for that matter.
As I just tell them, it's Freedom Day. It's just soon.
Right, so hold on. You're telling them to hold on. You're showing them to hold on.
I'm telling them soon. These problems, especially when at the department, now I know an easy fix, right? But the long-term plans that we have, which are laid out some and the campaign trail already, but You look at soft loans and to get machinery and so. You look at things like land preparation. It's a serious problem. We look at monkeys, especially in the fires area. There's a serious problems with monkeys.
But in the background, you have a plan as the potential representative for the people of Constituency 6 to fix those things that are now being highlighted.
Yeah, but Constituency 6, well, I'm talking about national also, right?
But you did say that that's a bread basket, 6 and 7 bread baskets
but
for
there are
country.
farmers outside too, so they
Yeah,
they are also included.
Okay.
Yeah, so I ain't gonna be selfish and just keep all for 6.
Okay, good. Well, we're not selfish over here. Let's swing by to constituency number 7 and see what David Lincoln Pell has for us in terms of the constituents in his own area. Your constituency office has now been open. I guess you're getting a lot of traffic. You're doing canvassing. You are doing, you're probably doing one-on-one. You're meeting people in the street. People now know that you are the face of constituency number 7. What are some of the top things? Give me 2 top things that constituents in your area are saying to you that they want to have fixed on the PAM CCM government.
Good morning, Laverne, and to all the listening audience. I will pick off your Troy left off because I have a lot of farmers in my area as well.
Okay.
And some of the concern he mentioned is the same they have. And like I mentioned to them, farming is one of the things that will take care of. So my good friend here is Troy, my colleague, along with the national political leader and the next prime minister. They have the agricultural plan who will assist the farmers with that to take them care. And like I keep telling them, the plan we have for the agriculture is not just for providing food for St. Kitts and Nevis, but export speaks well for countries, and it's also let persons that countries that develop continue to get developed. The other pressing area that I have in my constituency that I highlight a number of times is the sporting areas. And the sporting facility, the sporting grounds in my constituency, you could say they have been neglected for a while. And even for sports, playing of certain games, it could be a hard thing when persons come from, whether it be overseas, there's no restroom, there's no changing room, and even a media room to document certain things, even film and so forth. So we could have our sporting persons have the opportunity to have scouts sit down comfortably, look at them, to select them, whether for scholarships or to try out to get a slot to play that sport professionally. Employment I'm speaking about, overseas employment. And when persons playing overseas as a professional, it not only benefit that individual, but when the person has to send some money back home, you see what it does for us. Just some countries talk about persons sending money back home and what a big thing that do to the economy. So imagine we have a number of professional players for St. Kitts and Nevis out there, and they send them back to their families. You see what we have. It could boom our economy. Not only that, the recognition. Just remember Kim Collins, just his name, the recognition he gave our country. So imagine we have so many different sporting people. Football, cricket, basketball, athletics, netball even, because they have a professional netball league in other parts of the world. Imagine all of that. You see what could happen to our country? We might be able to have our professional players come back home with their team, whether it's just for warming up or practice, because we have the sun. Some of those countries have the snow. So imagine during this summertime, or even in the wintertime, they could be able to come to St. Kitts and Nevis to warm up with our own nationals. That will give a boost to our country economically, because we could have sports tourism, if you want to use the better words. Persons could go into the B&B business. Airbnb. Sorry for that.
Okay.
And hotels could get a boost. The other thing that I'm looking at in my constituency is national security. We have a situation where sometimes we have a problem with crime. It's on the down low in certain areas, but when it comes to breaking and so forth, and even our borders, like I mentioned before, when I was in the police force, most of my years was in the SSU. I used to be an instructor at the training school as well, so training right there. Now, my political leader, the next Prime Minister, Sean Richards, would have mentioned it because he spoke length about it. In my constituency, where the prison is being built. I'm not sure if you remember. There's a police training facilities building right over there in the Buckley's area, opposite the abattoir. It stopped. That money could have gone right to complete the project. You know what? It's a training facility not just for St. Kitts alone, St. Kitts and Nevis, but it could have been for the OECS. Imagine the amount of things could have get done there. That in itself could have even bring in money to our country, help our police officers, because right now we are here, but our police officers have some concerns. They are part of the community, so therefore they live in my constituency
What
as
are
well.
some of those concerns? Are they sharing them with you?
Well, I do not want to go too much in because, I have a brother in the police force. He's not the one telling me, so I don't want people think he's,
Okay.
and
Got
I
All
I just
right.
want to leave it there because,
Yeah.
but.
So those are your three concerns.
And yes, and education as well, because in my constituency as well, the Obadiah Primary School in Molyneux, it burnt down. I will seek the commitment of my political leader, the Honorable Sean Richards, at least 90 days to start getting that school back on track.
Okay.
That's where I went to primary school. And that's where my sporting talents started to shine.
Got you.
Football, cricket, athletics, and everything.
Okay.
So those are the areas. But I could say for sure, some of the teachers in my constituency would have contacted me and let me know the conditions of our schools. We have some schools, primary schools, that one class could hold the entire school. That means we are losing our students in my constituency. And I have a problem because if I have constituents, that means I might have persons who are going to continue getting children. And if there is no school, you see what I'm talking about. So therefore, schools, education. So education, sports in all its form, national security, and joining with my good friend Troy, agriculture. And before I let you ask another question to any one of us, talking about healthcare. You have a hospital in my constituency.
Hang on with that. You've made 4 good points. Don't let us lose the listeners with more than that. That's quite a lot of food for thought, because I wanted to ask the political leader about the CBI, the Citizenship by Investment Program, and whether his government would see any need to review it as it is in its current state. He spoke early on about the fact that the PAM government in the 1980s was the inspiration behind this program that has now taken off across the world. In fact, PAM was the initiator of this program. And so after 84 and now is how many years? 38 years? Is there any need to do any further review of that program, Mr. Political Leader?
Indeed, the program needs to be reviewed. As a matter of fact, within recent times, I've gathered that the gentleman who has lost his way has jeopardized the program. I've been quite reliably informed that they are citizens of Russia, Belarus, who are now being given access to the program. It is being frowned upon by the US and also the EU community. I understand they're actually looking at taking sanctions against the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis as a result of such. We know that just before the elections of 2015, Canada pulled the visa-free access for citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis because of concerns it had with the Citizenship by Investment Program and some of the characters who were being sold citizenship for the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. That particular red flag, as I said, has been raised relative to citizens of some countries who are now able to access the Citizenship by Investment Program. Of course, when one is selling some 5,500 passports to build a prison for $2.4 billion, when one has concerns as to where the proceeds from those passport sales are going, one has to wonder how many persons from those countries which I mentioned are being sold the passports in an effort to raise monies which may not necessarily end up going towards the construction of a prison, but perhaps ending up financing the campaign of a particular Labour Party, while our citizens are being jeopardized, while other countries that we have maintained very good relationships with over the years now frowning upon us because of the greed of one man. The greed of one man who, by his own actions, have shown that he is not about ensuring that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis truly benefit, but that a few other close friends and family members benefit.
Thank you, Mr. Political Leader. Mr. Grant, you in your first response to the question of the challenge that COVID posed to the industry, you quite clearly said that the country was poised to do so much until COVID set in. Now clearly the thought is that after COVID, the strategy can't be the same for tourism. And assuming that that is one of the portfolios that you would return to when you go back into government after August 8th, what are some of the things that have to be done differently with respect to tourism, given all that COVID has challenged us with in this industry?
Look, one thing we have to understand is that the tourism marketplace is very fluid. And we have to, what I would suggest, move with the times. I've seen a few of the deficiencies in the system which we need to correct. First of all, I should tell you, we have done a tremendous amount of training of our nationals to bring us up to speed in terms of the service industry. But I'll be honest with you that we still have a long way to go in terms of our service industry. I have over the last few years spoken with the cruise lines for one or two reasons. One, to be able to have a platform for our people to be trained, number one, up to that level of service, and secondly, to gain employment opportunities for them on the cruise ships. And we were very close in terms of coming to an agreement with the lines in terms of that, because you would recognize that we have to get more of our young people employed. That's an issue that we're going to have to grapple with, because there are hundreds, I believe, of young persons out there with 10, 11, 12, 13 subjects, some of them sitting home without work, and that has to be of concern to any government coming in. So we have to do something in that regard. We also have to ensure that we have a good mix between tourism and agriculture, because we have to make sure that synergy works. We cannot rely, when we have a booming tourism industry, rely on all the goods coming from overseas when we have such fertile land. So Troy, I'm going to be relying on you, because I think we have a good cadre of farmers in this country. We just need to step up our game and ensure that we do the correct thing. For example, I've always said, and I've been a farmer too, I come from a farming background, and I've always said, it's not really necessary for us to do all the crops. We need to single out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 crops, whatever the number is, and focus our attention on those and be the best and grow those for local consumption and export. Maybe it is tomatoes, I don't know. Maybe it is cucumber, something. And we can do it, but we just can't do every crop. Single out certain things that we are good at and that the soil is good for the soil, and we move on those. I've always said that. And try, we have to do that. The third thing I would say, and I'm kind of straying off of tourism, but the third thing I would say is that I gave the cabinet a good idea, but it was never taken up. And this was the idea. I was saying, there's nothing wrong with having the landscapers all across the country beautifying it and making it good. But by the very same token, we could take 10, 15, 20, whatever the number is, persons, out of that and put them to plant crops, food. The same money we are paying them to do the landscaping, we pay them to plant the crops. And we give them the support in whatever crop they are growing. And I'm saying, when they, at the end of the day, when you sell the produce, and let us say you get $100,000, and you would have paid them $40,000 in wages, you take the $40,000 and put it back into the treasury for the next round. And you take a portion of that money, and as an incentive, you break it up between the groups. And I'm certain we will have good productivity in agriculture in that regard. I just wanted to put in my 2 cents on agriculture, Troy.
I'm sure Troy is happy about that. Our country has to be fed. You know, we don't necessarily have to buy food, but I don't know we can live without food or water. So there's certainly great opportunities there. Troy, you were going to make a quick point.
Yeah, and I was listening to him talking about training. And constituency number 6 have a nice facility down there. You know?
A training facility?
A nice facility sitting down there in disrepair, the Golden Lemon Hotel. That would be a nice facility to use as a training school.
But is it a privately owned?
You know, government could
acquire stuff.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm looking at the clock. We have not been able to field any callers today. But just in case there's anybody who wanted to slip a burning question in, because we've been going for near 2 hours now, and not. I would give Trent the green light to. There's one. Good morning and welcome to the movement.
Good day. I think we are not in a normal campaign season. I've listened to both presentations earlier this morning and now, and it's almost as if they think it's normal, right? This is not an ordinary election, and PAM has decided to form another alliance with the CCM. Haven't we had enough of these pre-election alliances? And you mentioned a number of things, a number of promises that remain unfulfilled. Why hasn't, or what gives us the guarantee now that these will be taken care of if they weren't taken care of before? And finally, you know, we like to talk about divine intervention. There are some policies that you seem to be advocating, and I'm talking about, for instance, building the Bassi High School and the solar farm in the environs of the aquifer, right? In my estimation, these are bad environmental policies, education policies, and planning, and even financial arrangements concerning them leave a lot to be desired, right?
Thank you, caller. If you're to give us, if you're to give them a choice, if you're to give them an opportunity to answer, we're keeping our eyes on the clock. And I think you asked that last question the last time, and it was answered very, very thoroughly and concisely by the political leader. The question about the building on the Bass, the aquifer, and all of that. So,
and the solar farm.
And the solar farm. I think those 2 questions were quite adequately answered the last time you called. So thank you very much. I'm going to allow the political leader to address the other 2 questions that you asked. One about, you said you called them the pre-election alliances. And you asked in tandem with that, what gives us the guarantee that these promises can be, that the promises that were unfulfilled can be fulfilled this time around? which I think you also addressed as well.
Lavon, I'm unable to answer the first question. You would recognize that when I got the headphones from the technician, the caller was already on the line. So I did not get the opportunity to hear his first question.
He asked, what's with these pre-election alliances? Going back into a promised alliance with the CCM when you came out of an alliance that he said supposedly did not work.
I would not say that the alliance did not work. What did not work is the PLP part of the alliance. What did not work is one man who really and truly, based on his actions, had absolutely no intentions of really looking after the affairs of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. PAM and CCM has remained true. PAM and CCM have remained true to their commitment to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. As a matter of fact, it is because we remain true to our commitment where we decided that the deal, the things which were being done by that one man, we could no longer tolerate on behalf of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. So yes, we still have an alliance between the People's Action Movement and CCM, and we have made that very clear to the public. The public therefore knows what we are proposing. This isn't an alliance of convenience which comes after a general election when basically you don't have any agreement in terms of policies, any agreement in terms of a leader, when we haven't been able to say to the public what we intend to do on behalf of the public. We are aligned prior to the elections in terms of our ideas, in terms of our policies, etc. For me, that makes for a better coalition rather than two parties coming together is simply out of convenience in terms of forming a government after the general elections would have been held. You know, it is interesting that persons would ask the question, why you coming now? Why you coming as an alliance? Here it is that Timothy Harris was part of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party administration from 1995 up until the year 2013, I think it is, 2013, when he was dismissed. And so for some 18 years, he was the part of this administration. And according to him, he had numerous issues for the 18 years. And for 18 years, he stayed in there and not saying to the public that he has all of these concerns. We have come very early and said to the people that this ought not to continue. Imagine if we had waited for 18 years and reached to the same state of play that the Labour Party had taken this country to in 2012, 2013, 14, 15. You're in the hands of the IMF. Canada pulling your visa-free access. Crime is, at an all-time high, where you are being ranked as having the most murders in the world. Police officers are not being looked after. You can't get increments. Persons who invested in treasury bills, etc., taking a haircut. Sometimes you get the impression that that is what persons wanted us to do, to wait until it reached to that particular state of affairs to say to persons that, look, we cannot continue with this, because if we continue with this, the country is going to reach to a state that we are all going to be dissatisfied with. We came out 7 years later and we said, look, we are not satisfied with the direction in which Timothy Harris is taking the people of this country. We are representatives of the people. This is not what the people voted for us for. They voted for us to get better. And upon recognizing that the people of this federation are not getting better, we decided it is time to bring it to an end. And we have been honest with the people of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and we have said to you, give us an opportunity to prove to you that indeed we are committed to looking after your affairs. Now, the second part of the question that the gentleman posed is relative
The guarantee that the promises can be fulfilled
the
now.
guarantee that the promises can be fulfilled. Well, when I spoke earlier, I spoke to a number of promises that the People's Action Movement made back then. And they were fulfilled. Of course, similar to now, you had doubters who said that these things cannot be done. When personal income tax was removed, there's some who said the economy would crash because the government cannot operate without that revenue. Instead, what happened is the economic growth in St. Kitts and Nevis was ranked as number one within Latin America and the Caribbean. When Port Zante was being done, some said that it's going to be a disaster, that the place will flood. Port Zante now is the mecca of tourism activity in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and Minister Grant spoke to that not long ago. As a matter of fact, he was ranked as the number one Minister of Tourism in the Caribbean area during the course of last year. The Southeast Peninsula Road, which so many of us enjoy the benefits of, was said to be a road to guns and drugs and a road to nowhere. We are now seeing the long-term benefits of that particular road. And there's so many other things that I can speak to, which I mentioned: the schools meals program, the textbooks for our children, visionary leadership, and just as those things were done then, the citizenship by investment program, which has been copied by many other countries around the world, which has brought untold benefits to the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, implemented by a government of the People's Action Movement. Therefore, what we are speaking to now, they are achievable. We have conceived them and we are able to implement them. That is why, for example, we speak about the Dream Fund. Because you know how many young persons out there have a business idea. The only thing that is stopping them from being able to implement that business idea is the lack of resources. Unfortunately, sometimes our minds is said to us, we can't achieve this. We can't do this. But I think St. Kitts and Nevis has proven to the rest of the world that we are leaders. We are achievers. And that is what we are saying to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, that an administration of PAM and CCM will implement these programs, these policies, to bring a better standard of living, not to PAM supporters, not to Labour supporters, not to NRP supporters, not to CCM supporters, and not only said Labour once, because our Labour is Labour in this country. Our Labour is Labour. But to all of the people of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Thank you
Lindsay
for
look
that.
like he wants to add something. Okay.
Thank you for that masterful exposition. I've been answering that caller, I nearly said Mr. Prime Minister, but maybe I'm speaking it into being. And so we have to do the wrap now. We started 10 minutes late, so we have all of maybe 5 minutes left. So starting with Mr. Pell, the bell has been rung now, and I want you to take 45 seconds to appeal to your constituency to support you.
Okay, thank you, Lavon. I'm saying to my constituents of Constituency 7, come out in your numbers. Those of you who are independent, new voters, those of you who are PAM, come back. Those of you who even for PLP, come and vote for me because you know the difference. Come. Labour, come. Some of you have met me. Some of you have said, oh, you're a good man, you know. You're the good man at the right time, but the wrong party. No, I'm not at the wrong party. Come and vote for me. We have representation in constituencies for 27 years. You have seen the failure. You have seen the neglect. I am asking you to give me that vote. Vote Lincoln David Pelling Constituency 7. Vote PAM. Those of you in Nevis, vote CCM. We have the ideas, we have the development, especially for small and medium-sized businesses, for our schools, for our police officers, for our teachers. We have this. We want to develop everyone and develop our nation and make it the best it can be. Let us dream, because we have a dream in St. Kitts and Nevis, and let that dream become the reality. Thank you very much. God bless St. Kitts and Nevis.
Thank you. Thank you, David Lincoln Pell. And now, Troy, I want you to appeal to your constituents why you are the best person. I mean, there's 3 now, so we have to go to the superlative. Why you are the best person to win the support on election day.
To the constituents of number 6, I will tell them after the election, they will still see Troy Flanders. I will be around. And like some people come around every 5 years, I am there every day between the people of constituency number 6. And I ain't no Johnny come lately to this thing, you know. I've been around for a lot of years, going around house to house, speaking to the people. And I will tell them, after 33 years of a representative who most of them, almost 90% telling me have failed them, why should you reward failure? I mean, it's simple. It is something simple. Constituency 6 has never, ever give Pam a chance. And I'm telling them, do it different this time. Give Pam a chance so you can also give yourself a chance. That's what I'm telling them. Pam is the best hope for the future of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Sound words.
Yeah.
Solid words. Words that cannot be condemned.
Right.
Mr. Grant, people think that the contest in that area is one-sided. What say you?
Thank you, Laverne. I take every election seriously and all opponents seriously. I never take an election lightly or for granted.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeking...
No pun intended, granted.
No pun intended. I'm seeking an opportunity, and I've said to my constituents that judge me on my record. As far as I'm concerned, I've done a fairly reasonable job. And I'm asking the individuals and the voters and the residents in constituency number 4 to give me the opportunity to continue the good work that I've been doing on their behalf. And I've said to them, look at the record, what I've done, and look at what I've indicated that I will do over the next 5 years in terms of phase 2 for the fisheries complex in Old Road, phase 2 for the sporting complex in Challengers, the refurbishing of the sporting complex in Halfway Tree, the fencing of the Halfway Tree netball and basketball courts, housing for the area, roads for the area. Those are the kinds of things I'm talking about, and good opportunities for them. The music studio, which I'm set to complete. And so I'm saying there should be no reason why the people of constituency number 4 not vote for me. I've been there for them over the last couple of years. I continue to be with them. I continue to be a minister who works for them 24/7, 365 days a year, always there. And I am certain that after the votes have been counted on election day, there'll be one person in constituency number 4 being victorious, because the people understand the work that I've been doing and continue to do. And that person will be none other than Lindsay Grant. Grant for sure in number 4.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Now, Mr. Political Leader, I was doing some research. You're a public figure, of course, and you celebrate a milestone birthday later this year. Wouldn't it be good if the entire country can celebrate with you as head of government?
The entire country indeed will be celebrating with me as head of government, Lavon. I have full confidence that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis will recognize that their best hope lies in putting their vote for the candidates of the People's Action Movement and CCM. We continue to outline policies and programs which will bring benefits to all of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. We are fully committed to the promises that we have made to the people, and myself, you will find leadership that you can trust. A man who sticks to his words. A man who was committed to supporting the outgoing man for 2 terms. And when persons approached me after 1 term and said to me that it is time for us to make a change, I said we gave a commitment for 2 terms and let us stick to that 2 terms. However, I am also a man who recognizes that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis voted for something different. And when I recognize that indeed there was no reform coming from the gentleman, that the gentleman had absolutely no intentions of changing his ways in the benefit of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, I made a decision in the best interest of all of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Certainly not a decision in my interest, because politically it is a risk for me. Politically it is a risk for Lindsay. Politically it's a risk for Jonelle, Matt Brantley, Eric Evelyn, and Alexis Jeffers. I have a mortgage to pay. And at the end of each month for the last few months, I have had to be finding resources to be able to meet the demands of that mortgage and other monthly expenses that I have. But I couldn't take a decision that is only in the interest of Sean Richards, while the vast majority of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis continue to experience suffering. If at the end of this election Sean Richards is unemployed, then Sean Richards joins the rank of so many other young persons out there sitting down home every single day, unemployed because of the actions of one man, building a prison for $2.4 billion, when those funds could have gone into finding employment for those young persons. If at the end of August 5th, I don't have any income whatsoever to pay my mortgage, I understand the cries of those persons, for example, from Cajola, who will be going home at the end of October, not knowing how they will be able to look after their children, to pay their rent, to pay their mortgage, to pay their loans, to pay all the commitments that they have. Because those are the people that I serve. Those are the people who elected me to represent them. And so I understand what they're going through. They want better. I want better for them. To the young people and the peace program who turn to a life of crime. And I will not turn to a life of crime because I can't meet my commitments. But at least you're able to identify with their frustrations. You're able to identify with their stress. Whether it is on a daily basis, a weekly basis, you don't know where the next dollar is going to come from. I stand with those persons. And that is why I decided that it is time to cut ties. It is time to do something different. It is time to say to the vast majority of petitions and divisions that that is not what you put Sean Richards there to do. I sat in opposition for many years, and that did not deter me from contesting an election in 2010, having served in opposition from 2004 up until the elections of 2010, and again between 2010 and 2015, because I understood the job that the people gave to me to go to Parliament to represent them. They did not give me an assurance back then that I'm going to be elected and I'm going to be in a government to enjoy the benefits of a government, or for the constituency to enjoy the benefits of a government. I went and I spoke to them and I said to them that you can get better representation from Sean Richards, and they gave Sean Richards the opportunity to go into Parliament and to provide better representation for them. And so he went into Parliament, first term, as the only representative of the People's Action Movement, and advocated on behalf of my constituents and advocated on behalf of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, because that is what they sent me there to do. And I went there and did specifically that job. And if it meant that after the elections of 2015, going back into Parliament again in opposition, I would have done exactly that. That is also why when I was called upon to renounce my U.S. citizenship, I understood that people had placed their confidence in me to be their representative. And so I also made that sacrifice on behalf of the people. And so again, this year, I made a further sacrifice on behalf of the people in walking away from a gentleman who had lost his way, who has clearly showed that he is not about all of the people. He is not about the fair share for all that we campaigned on. So I said to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, I am committed to serving you. I have shown election after election through my own participation, whether in Parliament, through my own actions, whether it is the renunciation of the U.S. citizenship, which some said it's a risk, because you're not guaranteed you're going to be elected. You're not guaranteed that you're ever going to be in government. But for me, the biggest picture, the big picture, is about service to the people. You have committed to serving the people. And so the decision that I took again this year was about bringing better service to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. I ask the people of St. Kitts and Nevis again to vote for the candidates of the People's Action Movement and CCM. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Political Leader. And thank you to all four of you gentlemen who came this morning for the second half of this program. I want to bid our listeners and viewers a very pleasant balance of the day, and to tell you that we'll be back here next Tuesday. In fact, we're going to be back until the very final day for election. So look out for us next Tuesday at 10 to bring you another edition of The Movement. Thank you for listening, and we bid you a good balance of the day and the week. God bless.
Thank you.